This time, we are going to move on to the first half of the session 5. Regrettably, Federal Ombudsman of Pakistan is unable to attend. Thus, Mr. Abdul Rauf Chandri, Federal Tax Ombudsman of Pakistan, will make a presentation on his behalf. Now, let me introduce the chair, Andre Mariang. Will be the moderator for the session. He holds JD and LLL in both Common and Civil Law from the University of Ottawa. He is the 6th Ombudsman of Ontario and the first to be reappointed. In the past year, the Office of the Ombudsman of Ontario has handled more than 27,000 individual complaints. It has also conducted dozens of systematic investigations since 2005, resulting in dramatic government reforms. Mr. Mariang's office also shares techniques for conducting systematic investigations through training courses around the world. He was the North American Regional Vice President of the IOI from July 2006 to November 2012. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Thank you for that generous introduction. So I am calling as the first speaker on the Ombudsman of Indonesia, the Chief Ombudsman Danang Jirendra Wardana. On January 20th, 2011, he was appointed as the Chief Ombudsman of the Republic of Indonesia. From the year 2000 up to this time, he is also chairman of Leadership Institute, an independent NGO that helps strengthen the bureaucracy, especially in the field of educational leadership and communication that supports the Ministry of Administrative and Bureaucratic Reform in realizing its mission in order to improve the professionalism of the public service officers. Quite the mouthful. So, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to sharing experience about the Ombudsman of Indonesia in the matter of how to increase impact of Ombudsman recommendation on society and acceptance range of recommendation. My name is Danang Girindra Wardana. I believe that Mr. Marin is difficult to spell my name or to say my name because my name is the longest name around the room. Danang Girindra Wardana is Japanese name, Indonesian name is common in Indonesia, especially in Japanese island, that our parents gave us long as many as possible name. It make us difficult to fill in the form of anything, passport and anything. It's very, very difficult.
What did I do wrong to have to introduce you then? What?
And Indonesia is also have very long island. Here in Indonesia is here, in the middle of Atlantic, in the middle of Australia and Asia. This is Indonesia. Consists of 7,800 islands, and the range of about 15,000 kilometers is very, very long island. So that's why my name is also very long. To the presentation, I would like to share you about the last night preview. Last night is not only about pop opera, it's wrong written, but a voice of energy amongst ombudsmen around the globe from here in South Korea. With great thanks and high appreciation. Please give applause to the chair, Mr. Lee Sung-bo. It's a wonderful event. And come to our presentation. This I have to share you our brief preview. Like a common of us in Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia and also the same as Ombudsman in surrounding the globe. We have expectation in Indonesia as well as the international world. The Ombudsman expected to make the bureaucracy more humanist face appear. In Indonesia, bureaucracy looks like lion that's very scary. So Ombudsman born to make that lion more friendly. A huge bureaucracy would cause the hierarchy ladder as very high. The bureaucracies become rigid and tend to lose their sensitivity to issues surrounding it. The Ombudsman is expected to be a point of intersection between large organizations named the bureaucracy with the public it serves. The Ombudsman may receive the process the feedback from the community and then submit it to the public institution. The role of the Ombudsman are not just simply the window of information to the bureaucracy, but also give a correction against the bureaucracy. This is the main text of Ombudsman in Indonesia. The receiver of recommendation of the Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia shall comply to perform which it based on the order by jurisdiction. This short paper describes how the Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia strives to achieve higher impact on its recommendation. As we learned before the session of this morning and the day yesterday, there are ways of solve public complaints such as mediation, investigation, asking clarification, and the other last is issued a recommendation. This is the most important for Ombudsman in Indonesia, is issuing a recommendation. The recommendation is the higher level of the Ombudsman of Indonesia to solve the public complaint. If the mediation fails, Ombudsman may issue a recommendation that the recommendation should comply from the public institution that received those recommendations. An Ombudsman recommendation may contain some order, like 2 points of view of the Ombudsman recommendation. First, the receiver of the recommendation can change or modify their system of public service. The second one is the recommendation may contain a sanction to the public services apparatus, to the public services official, if they do the maladministration and found by Ombudsman investigation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some background, and this is my face. I don't have any pointer for a pistol, but a smiley face. Based on some consideration, as here with the state of Republic Indonesia at year 2008, so we are very young now, still less than 6 years, so we have to learn from you. The service to the community and the enforcement as law as conducted in the framework of administering the state and the government constitute an inseparable part of the efforts to realizing the efficient, clean, and good governance to improve the welfare and realizing justice and legal certainty for all citizens as stipulated in the 1945 Constitution of Republic Indonesia. That the supervision of services as administered by the state organ and the public official constitutes an important element to the effort of realizing efficient, good, clean, and efficient government, and simultaneously constitutes the implementation of principle of democracy that needs to be developed and applied to prevent and eliminate the abuse of power by the state organ and public officials. This is the background of born of the Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia. That in observing the aspiration as developed in the communities so as to realize the state organ and public official which are free from corruption, collusion, and nepotism, and need to transparent, clean, fair, effective, and efficient, it is necessary to establish an Ombudsman institution of Republic Indonesia. Well, within that frame of view, the Ombudsman needs a public participation. How is the public participation? This is the wonderful view from yesterday's presentation. Let us imagine who's talking to who, and who's taking pictograph about this. But the mass media will generate public participation. We believe that. The most important one is also The control mechanism of the Ombudsman will run properly if the public knows and believes that they can perform the role properly. In other words, if the people believe and want to utilize the service of the Ombudsman. If people believe and want to utilize the service of the Ombudsman. There are basic values that must be held by the Ombudsman, which were broad and neutrality in the process of technologically friendly with high accountability for the public and can work synergistically with the community and government. So we were not alone here. We kindly need media, press to disseminate the Ombudsman role. Ladies and gentlemen, second one is the Ombudsman plays two major services that can be provided to community. The first is carry out investigation in relation to complaints regarding of to maladministration, such an action to procedure that is not acceptable, abuse of authority, and other action that inappropriate. Second, it acts as mediator of complaints as one of alternative dispute resolution. The two main services is expected to support the role of the Ombudsman to enhance the quality of public sector services, prevent the occurrence of abuse of power, and safeguard human rights. The Ombudsman is one of the pillars of democracy to improve the bureaucracy of government. The Ombudsman plays an important role as mechanism for social control through the participation of the community in the form of suggestion and complaints, while enhancing a sense of belonging to the government. So the Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia not only receive a form of complaint, but also a form of suggestion from public. This is quite different. Therefore, the Ombudsman could be viewed as a bridge to more professional bureaucracy. Here some authority given by law to Ombudsman of the Republic Indonesia as stated in the Article of 8, Act number 37, 2008. First is to request information from the complainant or other parties related to the complaint was filed in the Ombudsman. Second, to investigate documents from the complainant or the party complaint to obtain the truth of grievance. Third, to request the clarification and or photocopy of document as required from any agencies. So Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia have the power, have the authority to see all the document needed to solve the public complaint. Fourth, to summon the complainant, the party complaints, and the other parties related to the grievance. The fifth is to dispose the grievance through mediation and conciliation at the request of the parties. This is the most important regarding to this paper is the number 6, to make a recommendation on the disposition of the grievance, including the recommendation for the payment of compensation and or rehabilitation, which is given to the party damaged. Seventh is to reveal the result of funding, conclusion, and recommendation. Related to the topic of this paper regarding to how to enhance the impact and compliance with the recommendation of the Ombudsman, Article 38 Act of Ombudsman of the Republic Indonesia states, firstly, the party complaint and the superior of the party complaint shall comply to perform the recommendation of the Ombudsman. This most powerful mandate from the law of Ombudsman Republic Indonesia. Second, the superior of the party complaint shall report to Ombudsman on the compliance of the recommendation as has been conducted within the period of 60 days of the latest effective as the date of receipt the recommendation. There are 60 days for the parties that been complained, receiver of the Ombudsman recommendation, they shall do some action to solve that complaint in 60 days. The third, the Ombudsman may request to the party complaint and or his or her superior and conducting on the spot investigation to ensure that implementation of the recommendation. So we have the authority to investigate again the matter had been subject of recommendation of Ombudsman. Fourth, in the event that the party complainant and the superior of the party complainant fails to comply with the recommendation or have only complied to some part of the recommendation without good reason, the Ombudsman may publish the superior of the party complainant and submit the report to the House of Representatives and the President. So it can be understood as an institution of state engaged in bureaucratic and governance, the Ombudsman only has the greatest authority in the form of recommendation. So the recommendation, in the view of Ombudsman Republik Indonesia, is the highest level of product that must be implemented by the recipient of the recommendation. In, quote unquote, the recommendation of the Ombudsman Act, mandatory enforceable, but unfortunately the law does not give some strict sanction if the recommendation were not implemented. So we have the authority to issue a recommendation that shall be complied, but there are no sanctions if the receiver of recommendation not comply the recommendation. That's make not really happy as my friend, as my colleagues there. She looks not happy as I am that with no sanction applied for not following Ombudsman recommendation. Don't be angry, my lady. And I think this must be a huge concern here in the room, but because of I learned some of the act of Ombudsman at your country, not giving the powerful recommendation that must be followed, must be complied. But the Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia has the authority to be comply the recommendation, but we don't have any sanction at all. So it's not, we are powerful in the first step, but not really powerful in the second step, in the latest step of that public complaint resolution. Herewith, I present some data of Ombudsman Republik Indonesia as follows. Between 2010 and 2013, the Ombudsman has received a escalating number of public complaints from 2,500 to more than 5,000 complaints. This is not really a huge number comparing with ACRC and the Japanese Ombudsman and all other countries' Ombudsman, because they have more as 20,000 complaints per year, but we up to now receive around 5,000 complaints per year. The substance of those complaints are vary from public service to non-public services, non-basic public services, from basic education and health to investment services, from central government to local government surrounding Indonesia. We also receive some complaints from Korean business people in Jakarta, in Sukabumi, in Cikarang, near Jakarta, because of the dispute between corporation from Korean with the local government of Indonesia in district, and not yet been solved, but some of it is already improved. It's a very difficult situation because of the political tension and because of the land and regulation tension. The Ombudsman carried out number of 167 investigations in various local government, including the Sukabumi and Cikarang area of Indonesia. In 2012, the Ombudsman conducted an investigation as much as 288 to follow up reports and complaints from the public. The rest of the public complaints mostly undertaken by Ombudsman with clarification procedures such as correspondence, and the investigation itself is finding through a range of evidence in kind of mediation. Reports of public complaint were investigated, among others, that the complaints about the performance of the police, civil service issues demotion without proper procedure, the control of arable lands with the farmer groups, mining and plantation companies, the performance of health services in hospital and health centers, community land use by local governments, the delay in the execution of the court decision, licensing protected, student dismissal. This is very basic public service to non-basic public service. The investment services is non-basic public services, but it's mostly complicated situation of the complaint. The third, in the 2013, has been carrying out investigation as much as 64 items on issues of land, levy money for school construction, absentee employee, labor disputes, abuse of authority, and impropriety in the validation and verification of the honorary state apparatus and others. Ombudsman also monitoring the way of recruitment state apparatus in Indonesia. In 2014, has been investigating as much as 244 times based on priorities issues. Investment procedure, now we put the investment procedure on the very top rank of the investigation. Land, transportation, education, social, healthcare, police service, water utilities, infrastructure, electricity, fuel distribution, mass rapid transportation in Jakarta, and selection of candidates for public servants. In order to increase the quality of public service from prevention through, the Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia is in progress to disseminate and the implementation of the Act 2009 number 25 of public service to all stakeholders in the area of ministries and local government to raise the awareness of importance of delivering good quality of public services and compliance to the regulation. This is prevention and investigation of maladministration are important duties of Ombudsman somehow as the wonderful, memorable performance of traditional musical instrument in Samcheongak, Korean restaurant. Thank you for the Mr. Chair Lee to give us the to bring us along with the dinner in Samcheongak. It's wonderful, and please give applause to Mr. Chair. It's wonderful, and I cannot forget it. And the last but not least, I have to present the acceptance of Ombudsman recommendation. At these two areas of Ombudsman's field, not all of the output to resolve public complaints come in the form of recommendation, but mostly solved by the process of clarification, suggestion, and mediation. The output of recommendation from Ombudsman are in a small number than other steps of Ombudsman way to solve the public complaint. So the recommendation is a small number. In the last 3 years of Ombudsman Republik Indonesia had been issued only 48 recommendations to public institutions of state government and local government. Comparing with 5,000 file for public complaint, we only issued 48 recommendations. It's a very small number because of the other public complaints solved by other way as mediation, clarification process. As our evaluation and measurement, we will find that those recommendations were followed by the public institution in good manner without dispute. That mostly because of the leader of the public institution have already understood the Ombudsman role, and they can take benefit as impact of those Ombudsman recommendations. But some of the recommendations of the Ombudsman facing the heart to the recipient of the recommendation. And this is what I have to share with you, distinguished guests. Why it's hard to implement the recommendation. First is, could not be implemented at all. The recommendation of Republic Indonesia usually contain of several items. And the receiver sometimes reject all of it. But the second, they can follow some of it. It's the second. Could be implemented partly. But the third, take longer time than the expected execution in 60 days as stated by the law. This could be happen because some important things, for example, first is due to the political decision affected by political side of the public official. As you may know that Indonesia have around 548 local government surrounding Indonesia that the governor, mayor, and region and head of the local government come from parties that may be different from the ruling parties nationally. So they have a point of political view and point of political decision that may be different from center to local government. Second, because it requires the preparation of a new regulation needed to be provided. Third, because of it includes the indemnity to the complainant, so requires the preparation of the budget of the country or of the region so that it takes the next year's state budget. Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia may issue a recommendation that government and local government should pay for the complainant if we found that they have loss of their properties or something. Public agency and apparatus as a recipient of recommendation does not understand how the legally binding of the Ombudsman recommendation. The fifth, because of the Ombudsman personnel did not have the opportunity to explain the position of Ombudsman in constellation of state administration to the leader of public services agencies. So somehow, when the recommendation issued, we cannot have a chance to explain how it works and how is the position in the constellation. Six, because of the commitment to quality public service is not owned by the leader of the public service agencies. The seventh is the final. The technical consideration in the recommendation is too much mechanical engineering and it is already installed. Like we face many problems in the area of dispute between small medium enterprise in the market, and the developer of the market have a different view about the construction building, and this is dispute should be solved immediately, but the Ombudsman recommendation is too technically and too complicated. Next strategy to increase the impact of Ombudsman Republik Indonesia recommendation. I have to note that not all public complaints need to be resolved by the means of Ombudsman recommendation, as there are other mechanisms before the recommendation issued, namely clarification, advice, mediation, and reconciliation. In an effort before issuing the recommendation, it would be needed the serial of process that include complainants, apparatus of public services, and Ombudsman as facilitator to find the problem resolution. But due to the Ombudsman recommendation as a way solving public service problem can be used as a push factor against public institutions to take action as stipulated in the points of Ombudsman recommendation, then improvement of the quality of Ombudsman recommendation and addressing the causes of it is very necessary. How Ombudsman strives to increase the impact of Ombudsman recommendation on society and acceptance range of recommendations. Ombudsman of the Republic Indonesia allocates the various activities currently and in the future as follows. First is capacity building for the Ombudsman staffs and state apparatus, including regular training, workshop, and seminar. Second is focus group discussion in certain topics related to the top management from bureaucracy and the NGOs. Third is recommendation would be discussed with stakeholder before it finalized. So before we issuing the recommendation, it's better for us to grab them into the discussion and find a way before the recommendation is finalized. It's much more better. Fourth, develop a monitoring system to the recommendation to make sure that follow-ups are appropriate and progressing. Fifth is develop research and development to formulate properly Ombudsman recommendation. This is one advantage for the IOI to make training again about the how to formulate recommendation from Ombudsman. Ontario have the serial training, that's good. Identify on areas with enormous complaint from public, and the seventh is publish the implementation of recommendation as sharing knowledge amongst Ombudsman team and circulated to our branch office. The last, our closing remarks is our highly expectation that is the quality of public services in Indonesia will be better in the near future. Providing good quality of public services of the state apparatus is an obligation that should be fulfilled by the state at all levels, from center to local government. The Ombudsman recommendation is one way amongst other steps of public complaints resolution, but it still needed and to be improved internally in the side of Ombudsman and externally from the side of bureaucracy. The role of Ombudsman is really perceived by public not because of the huge number of reports of public complaints that are resolved, but also by the number of public institutions that change his service to better quality. And the last one, this is evaluation for myself. Why should I look down while others were cheering up to the camera? This must be looking for something. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and we'll come to discuss more further.
Thank you very much for your very entertaining but also very insightful presentation. Although your office hasn't been around that long, certainly you've already got a good grasp on what you're there for, making bureaucracy more humane, making your office a point of intersection between the public and the bureaucracy, the need to engage the public so that they understand the value of your office and support what you're doing and believe that you're doing the right thing. And you certainly have an interesting provision in your legislation where your recommendations are actually binding but not enforceable, which is an interesting spin on the world of ombudsman. And thanks for sharing that with us. Now on to our next participant, our next panelist. I will call on Mr. Abdur Rauf Chowdhury, who is the Federal Tax Ombudsman. And as the Federal Tax Ombudsman, he has over 36 years' experience in public service, public administration, public policy formulation, and private sector policy. Mr. Rauf has held distinguished positions with the government of Pakistan, most recently managing the portfolio for the Cabinet Division, Establishment Division, Ministry of Education, Textile, Housing and Works as Federal Secretary. And we welcome you to the panel, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andel. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, after listening to Mr. Girindra Vardhane, my friend, in a lighter tone, let me apologize if you find this talk a little boring. It's a matter of honor for me to be speaking in this august forum in place of Mr. Salman Farooqi, Federal Ombudsman of Pakistan, who could not attend the conference due to his health condition. The main theme of my address will be to trace the evolution of the institution of Ombudsman in Pakistan and its phenomenal growth in the last 3 decades from a fledgling sapling into a robust and thriving institution. It has proven its credentials as a true friend of the citizens. The concept of Ombudsman was slow to catch up in Pakistan. The seeds were sown 36 years after the independence of Pakistan with the promulgation of the Statute of the Establishment of the Office of Wafaki Mohsib, the Ombudsman Order 1983. It is the fate of all new institutions. The Ombudsman Office in Pakistan was met with skepticism, pessimism, and even fear that it would die its natural death and not attain adulthood. Happily, it did not happen, and after 31 years of institution of the Ombudsman has been a success story, and it has spread its wings in an unprecedented manner by touching upon important facets of national life. This is vividly displayed by the replication over the years of a number of offices at the federal and provincial level, these being the Federal Tax Ombudsman, the Federal Insurance Ombudsman, the Banking Ombudsman, and the Ombudsman for Protection of Women against Harassment at Workplace. All these 5 are the federal-level ombudsman. Additionally, all the 4 provincial governments have established offices of the ombudsman, and the 5th is the ombudsman in Azad Kashmir area. The government of Sindh and Punjab, the 2 main provinces, have also established the offices of provincial ombudsman for the protection of women against harassment at workplace. There is also a separate children complaint office in the premises of the Federal Ombudsman Secretariat to target the problems common and special that the children face in Pakistan. Again, the demand continues to grow, so much so that there is a need of adding more regional offices to the existing 8 offices of the Federal Ombudsman of Pakistan Secretariat throughout Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, to ensure better cooperation between all the 12 Ombudsman offices of Pakistan, the Forum of Ombudsman of Pakistan was established in 2011. This forum is a professional body of independent and non-political network of all federal and provincial ombudsmen. It was established in April 2011 with the mandate of working for the advancement of good governance across Pakistan and Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and for supporting the ombudsmen and their organizations with the aim of improving their operations, service delivery, and effectiveness. It has till date held a number of meetings, workshops, and conferences, including the recent networking of the Ombudsman of Organization of Islamic Conference, OIC member state, held on 28th and 29th April this year in Islamabad with the generous support of the World Bank. We really appreciate the financial support provided by the World Bank for holding this conference. The increase in the number of offices of ombudsmen and its need and acceptability became a reality due to the innovative measures taken during the institution's genesis in Pakistan. The complainant-friendly procedure of accepting complaints directly from the citizens without any third-person involvement, and the need of adopting a specific format. Even handwritten application in any language are admitted. And all this is done free of cost, as the complaints have always been free. The prompt dispatch of acknowledgement letters and immediate start of a flexible investigation in these cases, also other features of the system. The introduction of the Citizens' Hour is another unique development, allowing the ombudsman and the complainant to meet informally without any prior appointment. It aims at discouraging maladministration, poor governance, and corruption by giving direct access to the citizens to the ombudsman. All this has resulted in a boost to the citizens' confidence and government and legislature satisfaction in working of the ombudsman institution. It is therefore no wonder that receiving and processing of complaints over the 30-year period has reached the million mark. In the last 3 decades, almost 1 million complaints were received and decided by the Federal Ombudsman Office. So you can imagine the quantum of every year they receive around 25 to 30,000 complaints which they handle. Ladies and gentlemen, however, over the years, the need to bring the law in conformity with shifting values and requirements of all the stakeholders brought amendments in the law in 2013 through an act of the Parliament, known as Federal Ombudsman Institutional Reforms Act 2013. This law makes mandatory the finalization of proceedings and findings within 60 days and a presidential decision on the representation against its findings within 90 days of its submission. There are some other salient features, some of which I will explain. Uniformity of tenure of the ombudsman. Previously, there was no uniformity in the tenure of 5 federal ombudsmen. To overcome this difficulty, the new law provides that all the ombudsmen will have a fixed tenure of 4 years and shall not be eligible for an extension in tenure or reappointment under any circumstances. However, the ombudsman shall hold office after expiry of his or her tenure till a successor enters upon the office. By this arrangement, the law now guarantees that at no time the office of the ombudsman will remain unoccupied. Transitional arrangement. This law also provides that at any time when the office of the Ombudsman is vacant or he or she is unable to perform functions due to any reason, the President shall appoint an acting Ombudsman who shall perform functions and exercise powers as are vested in the Ombudsman, provided that till such time that acting Ombudsman is appointed and takes oath, the Wafaki Mosib or the Wafaki Federal Ombudsman shall act as the acting Ombudsman for any other office of Federal Ombudsman, and in the case of Federal Ombudsman is absent or unable to perform the functions, the Federal Tax Ombudsman shall act as the Federal Ombudsman in addition to his own duties. The law has thus put in place a statutory mechanism to automatically fill the void created when the Federal Ombudsman is not able to perform his duties. This is done so that the aggrieved citizens and the public may not suffer due to the non-availability of the Ombudsman or due to the failure of the government to appoint an Ombudsman or an acting Ombudsman in time. Power to grant temporary injunction. Two major amendments have been introduced in the legislation to enhance the powers of the Ombudsman so as to effectively redress the grievances of the aggrieved citizens. It has been provided that the Ombudsman shall have the power to issue temporary injunctions and the power to execute his recommendations, orders, and decisions. While granting temporary injunction, the Ombudsman shall be competent to stay the operation to the impugned order for the period of 60 days, and during the said period, the matter shall be finally heard and decided by him. The core issue was the implementation of the recommendations. With regard to the implementation of the recommendations of the Ombudsman, the basic statute, i.e., the President's Order Number 1 of 1983, has properly taken care of empowering the Ombudsman to execute his orders and recommendations. He could take action against the functionaries of any government agency primarily culpable for any defiance of his recommendations. In addition to recording adverse entry in the service dossier of the public functionary, a defiance report could also be submitted to the President for his orders. In addition to these proceedings, the Ombudsman has been empowered to punish a person for committing contempt of his office by exercising the same powers as are vested in the Supreme Court judge in Pakistan. Moreover, the Federal Ombudsman was authorized to direct criminal or disciplinary action against the public functionary against whom maladministration is established. Ombudsman can also grant compensation to the aggrieved person against the functionary of the agency responsible for such maladministration. Furthermore, if a complaint against public functionary is found to be false or frivolous, the Federal Ombudsman could grant compensation to such public functionary against the complainant for leveling unsubstantiated allegations against a functionary of the government. Power to punish for contempt. Under the new law, all Federal Ombudsmen have been vested with this power to punish for contempt as provided under the Contempt of Court Ordinance 2003. Redefining agency. The term agency has been redefined to expand the Ombudsman jurisdiction to all entities in which the federal government has a share with specific notification in the official gazette by Wafaki Mosib or the Federal Ombudsman. Yesterday, this issue was discussed that with privatization, the entities may get out of the purview of the Ombudsman, but here in Pakistan, all the if any corporation or entity is privatized and government still holds some share, maybe 25% share in the entity, the Federal Ombudsman can take cognizance of any maladministration into that agency. Removal of Ombudsman. The new law provides that an Ombudsman may be removed from office through Supreme Judicial Council. This council is actually for taking action against the judges of the Superior Judiciary of the High Court and the Supreme Court. So the Ombudsman, if he is to be removed on being incapable of properly performing duties or by reason of physical or mental incapacity or guilty of misconduct, then the case has to be referred to this Supreme Judicial Council, which is headed by the Chief Justice of Supreme Court of Pakistan with 4 other senior judges from the judiciary. Resignation. The Ombudsman under the new law can resign from the office anytime he wishes. Power to appoint grievance commissioner. The law provides that the Federal Ombudsman shall appoint or designate a senior member of his office as grievance commissioner in a government agency against which a large number of complaints are received persistently. So I will skip some of the other provisions. Power of review. Previously, the Ombudsman could revisit his findings and recommendations. However, the power of review was not specifically given by the statute. The President has removed this lacuna. The new law allows the complainant to file a review petition, which the Ombudsman will have to decide within 45 days, and that the Ombudsman shall have the power to review in case new evidence comes up in the case. Representation to the President. Previously, the representation to the President used to be filed through the Law and Justice Division. Under the new arrangement, the representation shall now be addressed directly to the President, and it shall be processed in the office of the President by a person who had been or qualified to be a judge of the Supreme Court or has been a federal ombudsman or federal tax ombudsman. Such representation shall be decided by the President within 90 days. But in case a representation is filed, there is a stay of 60 days only. So the proceedings will be stayed for 60 days. After 60 days, the department has to implement, even if the representation is pending. Administrative and financial autonomy. The expenditure for all the offices of the Ombudsman shall be charged to the Federal Consolidated Fund. There is no voting on such allocations, and all Ombudsmen as Chief Executive and Principal Accounting Officers shall exercise complete administrative and financial autonomy within their allocated budgets. There is bar of jurisdiction. The new law provides that no court or authority shall have jurisdiction to entertain a matter which falls within the jurisdiction of an ombudsman, nor any court authority shall assume jurisdiction in respect of any matter which is pending with or has been decided by the ombudsman. Despite this landmark new law of 2013, there will always remain a need to further improve the institution of the Ombudsman. The Pakistani nation will continue in its endeavors to strengthen it so that all traces of maladministration are eradicated and government departments become models of good governance. Thus, the scope of ombudsmanship in Pakistan promises to grow and expand both vertically and horizontally. I thank you, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, for patient hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Rolfe, for sharing with us as you put it, the landmark new law and all the new powers that will be contained in that legislation, and quite extraordinary measures to take, for example, against complainants who complain to obstruct and not do so in good faith, which again is an extraordinary measure. I think I'm not familiar with any other ombudsman legislation that has that in it, as well as the ability to prosecute public servants. And we'll be watching very closely as you expand your regional offices and as the law kicks in to see how everything works out. So thank you very much. Last but not least, we have the Ombudsman. Again, for the Seoul, I apologize for the pronunciation. I must have done something to the organizers because this is going to be hard for me to pronounce. The Seoul Seduman-gu Ombudsman. Don't ask me to say that again. So Mr. Song, or rather Dr. Song, has worked as a citizen ombudsman in Seoul, Korea since May 30th, 2011 in that position, which I can't pronounce. He received the doctoral degree in public administration at Hanyang University in 1993. And he served as a member of the Ombudsman of Korea and head of Civic Complaint Division during 1994 to 2009. And welcome, sir. The floor is yours.
네, 반갑습니다. 오늘 제가 발표하는 시간이 지금 11시 50분인데 대한민국에서는 11시 50분부터 식사를 나갑니다. 그래서 이 식사 시간이 시작되는 때에 발표를 하게 돼서 최대한 짤막하게 발표를 하겠습니다. 지금 사회적 형평성과 신뢰성을 위해서 옴부즈만 제도가 필요하고 다양한 그 국가들의 옴부즈만 제도를 봤습니다. 제가 말씀드리는 순서는 한국에서 왜 지방자치단체 차원에서 옴부즈만 시스템이 좀 필요로 하는가, 그러한 그 이유와 구체적으로 운영하는 데 있어서의 문제점과 개선 방향을 말씀드리고자 합니다. 지금 그 권익위원회 조사에 의하면 우리나라 243개 지방자치단체가 있는데 그 중에서 약 23개 지역이 자치단체 차원에서 옴부즈만 제도를 도입하는 걸로 조사가 됐었습니다. 그런데 저희가 최근에 또 다시 조사를 해보니까 한 14개 정도로 좀 축소가 된 것 같습니다. 옴부즈만 제도라고 할 수 없는데도 옴부즈만 제도라고 이름을 붙여서 사용하는 자치단체가 있기도 했고, 또 제도를 폐지한 자치단체들도 나옵니다. 그래서 제가 말씀드리고자 하는 것은 중앙정부 차원에서는 권익위원회라든지 국가인권위원회 같은 중앙 단위의 옴부즈만 시스템이 있습니다. 특수 옴부즈만 형태로 인권만 다루는 데도 있고, 그런 유사한 그러한 업무를 수행함에도 불구하고 이것이 너무 중앙에만 집중이 되다 보니까 지역 차원에서는 모든 민원들이 다 권익위원회나 중앙기관으로 집중을 하게 되죠. 그래서 거꾸로 권익위원회 근무하는 조사관들 입장에서 보면 이 정도 민원이면 자치단체 차원에서 충분히 해결할 수 있는 사안인데, 이걸 가지고 권익위원회에서 대포를 가지고 모기를 잡는 이런 그 우를 범하지 않는가 하는 그런 또 그 비유가 될 수도 있겠습니다. 그래서 제가 말씀드리고자 하는 것은 1994년도, 5년도서부터 그 이전부터도 자치단체 차원에서 옴부즈만 시스템을 도입을 해야 된다. 이유는 더 이상 설명 안 해도 다 아실 거고, 그럼에도 불구하고 지금 20년이 지났는데도 23개가 됐던 14개가 됐던 손가락으로 꼽을 정도 제대로 작동하는 옴부즈만 제도를 운영하는 자치단체는 5손가락 안에 들 정도로 아주 적습니다. 이거는 정부 차원에서도 권장을 하고 하는데 왜 그럼 도입이 안 될까? 그러면 시장, 군수, 구청장인 단체장은 이 옴부즈만 제도를 좋아하겠습니까? 싫어합니다, 사실은. 또 조례로서 입법적인 뒷받침을 해줘야 될 지방의회 거의 다 반대하고 왜곡시키는 제도로 바꿔버리는 기능을 지방의회가 하고 있고, 공무원들도 또 싫어하죠. 또 일부 최근에는 서울특별시 같은 데도 감사관실과 시민감사 옴부즈만 간의 알력이 생겼습니다. 그래서 지원 인력 시스템을 없애버리는 그런 문제가 있어서 좀 약간 이 부분들을 보완을 해야 되지 않는가. 그래서 여기 지금 각국의 옴부즈만들이 계시는데, 저도 94년도 고충처리위원회 근무를 하면서 AOA나 IOI나 이걸 회원 가입을 했었고, 처음 옴부즈만 제도를 도입하면서 어떻게 조사 프로세스를 가져가고 애니얼 리포트를 작성을 하고 하는 이런 작업들을 해오고, 지금은 이제 민간 섹터에서 이제 다른 일을 하고 있는데, 여전히 저는 상당히 낙천적인 사람인데 이 옴부즈만 이야기만 하면 우라통이 터지고 화가 많이 나는 낙천적이지 못한 그런 성격으로 돌변합니다. 그렇기 때문에 옴부즈만 제도를 좋아하는 사람들이 없다, 집단이 없다라고 하는 것은 시민들 입장에서 봐서는 이런 옴부즈만 기능을 해주는 것들이 더욱더 절실한 거 아닌가, 이런 역설적인 표현을 드리고 싶고요. 자, 그래서 지금 여기 자료 화면 데이터에 있는 걸로 보시면 서대문구 옴부즈만은 2011년 5월에 도입됐습니다. 그리고 이러한 서대문구 옴부즈만이 도입되고 자치단체에서 이러한 옴부즈만이 필요하다라고 하는 것은 통계를 보면 이제 권익위원회에 접수되는 민원의 43% 정도가 단순 안내나 이송 이첩을 하는 그런 민원이고, 권익위원회에서 시정 권고한 283건 중에 33.9%가 지방자치단체를 상대로 한 시정공고였다라고 하는 거죠. 그리고 기본적으로 우리가 지방 분권을 이야기하고 민원 서비스 차원에서도 지역 차원에서 제3자적 입장에서 객관적으로 민원을 적극적으로 처리하면 시간 낭비도 줄이고 오히려 민원인들에게 더 높은 만족감을 줄 수 있지 않을까 하는 것이 논거고요. 자, 서대문구는 25개 서울시 구청 중에 하나로 인구 약 34만 정도고 공무원은 1,255명이 근무하고 있습니다. 저 데이터가 조금 다른데 예산은 한 3,263억 정도 되는 그 자치단체입니다. 이 서대문구 옴부즈만 제도를 도입하는 배경을 좀 보면 2010년도 지방선거가 실시되기 직전에 서대문구 구청장이 구속이 됩니다. 뇌물수수 혐의로. 그래서 아마 우리가 옴부즈만 제도가 도입되는 그런 트렌드를 경향을 본다고 하면 어떤 부패 독직 사건이 있거나 지역에서 큰 아니면 국가 차원에서 뭐 문제가 있었을 때 그거에 대한 치유책으로 옴부즈만 제도를 도입해야 된다라고 하는 요구가 커지고 이것을 공약으로 내세워서 당선이 됐을 때 제도로 정착되는 그런 것이 하나의 법칙 비슷하게 적용되는데 서대문구에도 그러한 구청장이 구속되던 그런 사례로 인해서 좀 투명한 어떠한 행정 시스템을 좀 갖추는 차원에서 공약으로 이것을 도입하게 됐었습니다. 자, 그리고 이 옴부즈만의 기능은 최소한 짧게 말씀드리면 부패 감시, 청렴 계약 이행 평가와 관련된 거와 고충 민원 이 두 가지를 같이 처리를 하는 겁니다. 고충 민원만 처리하는 것이 아니라. 그래서 저희가 2011년도에 옴부즈만 제도를 도입했는데 5명의 전원 다 비상임입니다. 그래서 일주일에 한 번 회의를 하거나 아니면 필요하게 되면 조사라든지 이런 보고서 작성을 위해서 사무실에 출근을 하게 되는 대한민국 지방자치법상에는 지방의회에도 기구 설치를 할 수가 없고 또 이러한 직제를 반영해서 옴부즈만 기구를 설치하는 것이 사실상 불가능한 상황입니다. 그러다 보니까 시장 직속 아니면 부시장 직속 형태로 감사관실의 하나의 개 정도를 지원 인력으로 해서 도입을 하고 있는 상태가 되는데 이 옴부즈만을 하면서 저도 이제 3년째 이걸 하는데 비상임이다 보니까 결론을 말씀드리면 비상임에게 너무 많은 것을 요구한다. 제대로 된 조사를 하고 현장을 찾아가고 보고서를 작성하고 회의를 하는 데 있어서 비상임으로서는 투여하는 시간이 너무 많다라는 거죠. 그러다 보니까 이러한 것들에 대한 업무의 이제 한계를 갖게 되는 상황이라고 말씀드릴 수 있고요. 그래서 저희 애뉴얼 리포트나 이런 접수되는 상황이나 이런 것은 자료집을 보시면 대부분 교통과 관련된 건축, 도시계획과 관련된 생활민원과 관련된 것들이 많은 수를 차지하고 2013년도에 126건을 접수했습니다. 그다음에 이제 이 조사한 것은 직접 조사 한 건수는 약 30건 정도 내외가 되고 조사를 하지 않고 해당 부서에서 처리하도록 한 것이 2012년도에 42건, 2013년도에 98건 정도로 나타나고 있습니다. 물리적으로 불가능하기 때문에 대부분 해당 기관으로 처리를 하도록 이첩을 하거나 또 아니면 해당 기관에서 처리하는 것이 적당한 아주 단순한 사항이기 때문에 이첩하는 거라고 볼 수 있겠고요. 그다음에 이제 이러한 청렴계약 감시평가 결과 약 한 20건 내외에 감사 요구를 하거나 시정 공고를 하거나 의견 표명을 한 뭔가 부적정하고 바꿔야 되겠다라고 하는 청렴계약 감시평가 데이터를 말씀드릴 수 있고요. 이제 이렇게 조사한 한 것에 대해서 실제적으로 저희가 수용을 해서 이 반영을 한 것, 시정 공고한 것은 거의 99% 정도 집행부에서 수용을 해줬습니다. 근데 이 시정 공고와 관련돼서 앞에 인도네시아 사례에서도 나왔지만 집행부에서 수용할 만한 사안들만 시정 공고하면 100% 달성하는 거는 쉽습니다. 그러나 뭔가 변화를 가져가기 위해서 조금 적극적으로 시정 공고를 하게 되면 수용률은 떨어질 수밖에 없고, 그러한 것들을 만들기 위해서 한국 같으면 청와대나 아니면 유관 기관 간에 감사원을 포함한 이러한 협의 기구를 해서 범정부적으로 뭔가를 해결하는 시스템이 필요할 것 같고, 지방자치단체 차원에서도 마찬가지로 자치단체장과 지방의회 아니면 또 관련 전문가들과 무엇인가 대안을 찾는. 근데 이제 대한민국의 지방자치 분권 수준이 2대 8입니다. 자치 분권이 20% 지방자치에 불과하다라고 하는 비판이 있기 때문에 지방 옴부즈만으로서 서대문에서 일하다 보니까 권한이 거의 없는 부분. 그래서 제가 말미에 말씀을 드리겠지만 지방자치단체 옴부즈만들이 활동을 하면서 권익위원회와 뭔가 이 한 라인이 개설되거나 같이 권한을 가지고 있는 권익위원회와 뭔가 협조해서 이러한 것을 풀어보는 것이 필요하지 않을까 하는 그러한 것을 현장에서 좀 느끼게 됐고요. 자, 그래서 이 데이터를 보시면 저희가 매주 한 번씩 정례 회의를 개최하는데 한 40번 정도의 회의를 개최하는데 위원들이 근무하는 일수는 80일에 해당됩니다. 그럼 여기서 토요일, 일요일 빼고 한다고 하면 몇몇 위원들께서 거의 헌신적으로 자원봉사 형태로 적극적으로 참여를 해주고 있는 그런 상황이라는 데이터를 말씀을 드리고요. 저런 현장을 직접 나가보고 하는, 그래서 지금 나름대로 평가를 한다라고 하면 자치단체 차원에서 뭔가 새로운 모델을 좀 찾아보려고 하고, 어려운 상황이지만 옴부즈만 제도의 취지에 맞게 국민들의 권익을 좀 향상시키고 또 행정에 대한 신뢰성도 강화하는, 그래서 나름대로 열심히 운영을 했지만 한 3년 지나다 보니까 이것이 지속 가능한 시스템인가, 일을 제대로 한다라고 하면 지속 가능한 시스템이 될 수 있겠는가 하는 의문이 든다라는 거죠. 그래서 저는 옴부즈만이 갖춰야 될 기본 속성, 권고성과 공정성, 독립성, 신속성, 접근성, 그다음에 또 업무 처리상 기밀성도 또 필요합니다. 자, 이러한 옴부즈만이 갖춰야 될 그런 요소와 관련돼서 해결할 수 있는 방법은 비상임으로 운영하는 것에 한계가 있기 때문에 반상근 내지는 아니면 위원회 합의제라고 했을 경우에는 한 사람 정도는 어떤 상근 형태로 업무를 해야지 효율적인 업무 시스템이 되겠다라고 하는 그런 말씀을 드리고, 지금 옴부즈만에 파견 와서 옴부즈만실에 파견 와 있는 공무원이 저희도 2명이 있습니다. 감사관실 직원인데 그 공무원의 고충을 이야기를 한다 그러면 옴부즈만과 공무원 집행부와의 중간에 끼어서 상당한 고충을 겪고 있죠. 기밀성도 유지해야 되겠고 또 정보가 누설이 돼서는 안 되는 특성도 있고, 이거는 더 이상 말씀 안 드려도, 따라서 이런 옴부즈만의 업무 보조를 해줄 수 있는 집행부 공무원이 아닌 민간 독립조사관이라고 할까요? 옴부즈만과 뜻을 같이 해서 소신껏 일을 할 수 있는, 집행부로부터의 눈치를 보지 않는, 어차피 감사관실 직원으로 인사권은 자치단체장이 행사를 하는 과정에 있다 보니까 중간에서 애매한 입장이라는 거죠. 그래서 옴부즈만, 지방 옴부즈만 제도의 이제 발전 방안은 이런 것이 필요하고, 실질적으로 옴부즈만 제도를 지금 한 14개 자치단체에서 운영을 하고 있지만 앞으로 확산을 권장한다고 하면 이런 조직을 설치하는 법적 근거라든지 아니면 또 대부분 자치단체에서는 우리 인력이 부족한데 TO를 더 늘려달라고 하는 인력투쟁으로 변질이 됩니다. 근데 제가 좀 몇몇 자치단체를 다니면서 이렇게 보면 그 정도 인원을 확보하는 건 어렵지 않은 일인 것 같아요. 공무원들이 그렇게 뭐 과로사 할 정도로 어려운 상황은 아닌 것 같고, 그래서 자치단체장의 그 소신과 의지만 가지고 이 옴부즈만 제도가 작동하기를 바란다라는 것은 너무 환상적이다. 제도화된다라고 하는 것은 정권이 교체되고, 얼마 전에 우리 지방선거가 있었지만 자치단체장이 바뀐다고 하더라도 변함없이 옴부즈만의 기능을 충실히 수행할 수 있는 인적, 물적 지원 시스템이 또 거기에 정치적 중립성과 독립성을 확보할 수 있는 그것을 확보해 주지 못한다라고 하면 임기 2년에 자치단체장의 영향력을 받는 상황에서는 제대로 된 옴부즈만이 운영되는 것이 어렵지 않는가. 그래서 저는 20년 동안 14개 자치단체가 도입을 했지만 이걸 뭐 얼마만큼 도입하는 것이 바람직하다 이 수치로 말씀을 드리기는 어렵겠지만 저는 결론으로 그렇게 대신하고 싶습니다. 사이비 옴부즈만, 그죠? 유사 옴부즈만, 명칭만 옴부즈만이라고 하는 걸 붙여서 자치단체에서 함부로 옴부즈만 제도를 도입하는 것을 반대합니다. 옴부즈만에 대한 용어를 모독하는 거고, 이 국민 입장에서는 관료사에 대한 불신, 또 이러한 것들에 대한 어떤 부정적인 인식만을 더 치켜 세워준다고 하면 도입하지 않고 때가 됐을 때 인적 물적 여러 제도적 여건이 됐을 때 옴부즈만 제도를 제대로 도입해서 운영하는 것이 좋겠다. 그래서 이런 홍보성으로 일회성으로 장식품으로 전락할 수 있는 옴부즈만 제도는 도입하는 것은 바람직하지 않다라고 하는 말로 결론을 맺을까 합니다. 네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you for your excellent presentation, Dr. Song. I said yesterday during my presentation that regardless of language, geography, there's things that we all have in common as ombudsmen. And certainly my experience in Ontario dealing with local government has been exactly the experiences you've described where you're from. I'm not sure how this will be translated in Korean, but we have an expression in English that ombudsmen are as popular as skunk at a garden party. And the lower you go in government down to the local government, the worse, the bigger your skunk and the worse it gets. These offices are often used as PR tools when they are not completely opposed, and it's very difficult to tangle with local government. You've talked about the negative attitude of mayors. I mean, we've lived it all in Ontario, even though we have a very small area of jurisdiction now over municipalities. It's about to expand, and it's terrifying me because I can see that magnifying the kinds of conflict we have with the municipality is right around the corner, and I think you were very insightful in describing that. I was also interested by your comment about a former mayor being convicted of taking a bribe. In Ontario right now, we have a mayor that was just convicted a couple of weeks ago of fraud, and he's had to resign. And right up until the end, he refused to resign. Even after he was convicted, he didn't want to resign until, of course, the pressure from the fellow councillors and the public. And, of course, we have the infamous mayor of Toronto, who's a world-class buffoon. So, we see the same kinds of issues in Ontario that you've described here in a very, very comprehensive yet concise way. So thank you very much for your submission this morning. So it is 12:12, so we do have some time for questions. A lot of stomachs grumbling out there.
네, 국민권익위원회 김 기사입니다. 제가 질문을 좀 자주 드리는 것 같은데요. 이 행사를 맡고 있어서가 아니라 정말로 궁금해서 여쭤보는 것이라는 진심을 좀 알아주시기 바랍니다. 그 인도네시아 옴부즈만님께서 말씀하신 내용 중에 지금 이제 인도네시아에서 옴부즈만이 설치된 지 얼마 되지 않아서 여기 참석하고 계신 다른 옴부즈만들께 많은 것을 좀 배우시겠다 그렇게 말씀을 하셨는데요. 지난 3일 동안에 그 찍은 사진들을 순발력 있게 이 파워포인트 자리에 그 포함을 하신 걸 보니까 짧은 역사에도 불구하고 현재 인도네시아 옴부즈만께서 신속하고 효과적이고 창의적으로 민원을 지금 해결하고 있지 않을까 그렇게 생각합니다. 그래서 그런 의미에서 오히려 우리가 인도네시아 옴부즈만께 배워야 되는 게 아닌가 그렇게 생각하고요. 제 질문은 말씀해 주신 것처럼 이제 공고에 대해서 관련 기관이 이제 따라야 되는데 문제는 이제 그 법률적으로 그걸 이행을 안 했을 때 어떤 그 제재나 처벌 규정이 없다는 말씀을 하셨습니다. 그 상황은 저희 국민권익위원회도 지금 같은 상황입니다. 저희도 이제 공고적인 그런 효력만 있지 이제 어떤 그 법률적으로 관련 기관을 구속할 수 있는 그런 상황은 아닌데 그럼에도 불구하고 저희 위원회 같은 경우에는 이 공고를 하고 나서 이행을 안 하더라도 1년, 2년 동안이라도 계속 저희들이 협의를 하고 해가지고 전체적으로 한 그 저희들이 공고한 부분에 대해서 한 90%가 이제 각 그 기관에서 지금 수용이 되고 있습니다. 그래서 같은 맥락에서 지금 인도네시아의 경우에 공고를 한 것 중에서 수용되는 비율이 어느 정도 되는지 그 궁금합니다. 그래서 그 부분에 대해서 좀 답변을 해주시면 고맙겠습니다. 그리고 저희 두 번째 질문은 그 파키스탄 조세 옴부즈만님께 드리겠습니다. 파키스탄 같은 경우는 상당히 좀 그 독특한 측면이 있는 것 같습니다. 뭐 이렇게 연방 차원에서 지방 차원에서 각각 옴부즈만이 있는 경우는 이제 다른 나라에도 좀 많이 있는 것 같은데요. 특히 파키스탄 같은 경우는 연방 차원에서도 연방 옴부즈만이 있고 조세 옴부즈만이 있고 뭐 은행 옴부즈만도 있고 뭐 보험 옴부즈만도 있고 그다음에 그 직장에서 어떤 여성 근로자 인권을 보호하는 옴부즈만도 좀 설치되고 있는 걸로 알고 있습니다. 그래서 이렇게 파키스탄에서 분야별로 이렇게 옴부즈만이 다양하게 설치가 된 어떤 특별한 어떤 뭐 역사적 배경이랄지 아니면 뭐 문화적 배경이랄지 아니면 어떤 특별한 다른 사회적 배경이 혹시 있으면 좀 소개를 해주시면 고맙겠습니다. 그리고 마지막으로 서대문고 옴부즈만께는 질문은 아니고요. 제가 그 이제 우리 국민권익위원회가 이제 어떤 전체적인 지금 우리 한국의 옴부즈만으로서 지금 활동을 하고 있는데 시도의 옴부즈만이 지금 이제 여러 군데 생겼다는 이제 그런 내용은 제가 개인적으로 알고 있었지만 실제 시도에서 이렇게 운영되고 있는 옴부즈만들이 처한 어떤 상황이나 어려운 어떤 부분에 대해서는 사실은 구체적으로 모르고 있었는데 오늘 자세하게 잘 설명을 해주신 것 같고 특히 이 문제가 그 단순히 그 옴부즈만 제도 자체만의 어떤 국한된 문제가 아니라 지금 우리 지방자치법하고도 그 관련이 지금 있는 그런 문제라는 점까지 잘 그 설명을 해주신 데 대해서 감사드립니다.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, about the question and also consists of suggestion from you is very valuable. Yes, the Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia is still like a baby and young up to now, comparing with the other ombudsman in this room. We have been born by a presidential decree from 2000. Year of 2000. So, but it's still in the form of executive agencies. But since 2008, the Ombudsman Act, Ombudsman Law, is already born. So the ombudsman now escalating to from the state agencies, from the government agencies now to the state agencies, because we not report to our president, but we report to the parliament. So it's just different. And also we make a shifting from the perspective of law, from the law perspective to the bureaucracy perspective. It's slightly different. The law perspective will be handled by jurisdiction, handled by law enforcement sector. But the ombudsman is facing the bureaucratic reform and bureaucratic public services. It's slightly different. That is the same thing we did, and we learned about this how the ombudsman of other countries running that well. Also, we learned about the how ombudsman of Netherlands that also have a greater greater status on the consolidation of the state. They have already born in the constitution. The Ombudsman of Republic Indonesia born in the act, in the law, not in the constitution. It's very different. That is good information from you also, that you bring us information about 90% of the recommendation from ICRC is already well implemented here. It's a successful rate, 90%. In comparing with Indonesia, we have already only 48 recommendations already issued during these 3 years, but the successful rate is not more than 60%. It's not really make us happy, but we learn in something because of the culture of our bureaucracy is quite different with the country in the modern area. We still in the developing, and the culture of the bureaucracy still need to be advanced. More modern country, more disciplined people, more disciplined apparatus, they can accept more law in binding process, and also in the recommendation of ombudsman in legally binding. And success rate of recommendation of Ombudsman Republik Indonesia facing a difficult situation because of the other one is the culture of our bureaucracy, and the other section and the other part is because of the mass media involvement is not really strong. We are looking forward to the corruption issues greater rather than bureaucracy, maladministration issues. So we need to generate more publication in mass media about the issues of maladministration. We believe that maladministration is the root cause of corruption. But the corruption issues is the more sexiest issues in Indonesia. I don't know in the country, but in Indonesia it's the most sexiest issues during these 7 years. That's bad. But the maladministration, yes, that is our duty now, and we have to accelerate more. Yesterday I received a presentation. I learned a presentation from Mr. Marin about how to generate issue in the media or to publish our finding and the publication. That's why I asked for help to come on, give us more material so I can adapt and copy you. Not only from Ontario, but also from other countries. We learn from it. Thank you very much, sir.
So, as I explained during my presentation, that Pakistan is a federation, and this federal ombudsman, office was set up in 1983, was dealing only with the federal government departments. So after that, different provinces set up the offices of the provincial ombudsman from time to time, from Punjab, Sindh, other, and those ombudsmen are dealing exclusively with the provincial departments under the revenue department, police, health, education. So these are under the states or the provinces. So in year 2001, it was felt that the cases of taxation and banking, which were slightly of technical nature, were delayed in the federal ombudsman office. So then these three single mandated, we call it, ombudsman, taxation, banking, and insurance ombudsman were set up at the federal level. So they deal with the federal agencies only. The other ombudsman, federal ombudsman for women for harassment at workplace, these are the new additions. These were set up in 2010 by the previous government under pressure from the NGOs claiming more rights for the women, because there were certain cases of women harassment, not only in the government departments but also in the industry. So this ombudsman for the women has the jurisdiction to deal cases with not only with the federal agencies but also in the industry, whether it is in the private sector or in the rural. So in all we have 12 different agencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So we have probably time for one more question, right in the back.
Hello, my name is Mark Champo. I'm a student at Seoul National University. Yesterday and today, I heard Ombudsman office at a national level and development towards a regionalization. But my question is more: is it utopia or is it a possible idea to establish an international ombudsman office? Because nowadays we are in a globalizing world, and the migration question, for example, or issues. So, anybody?
An international ombudsman's office?
Yes.
Oh. Operating from outer space? Why don't you give this a shot, Mr. Ombudsman from Indonesia?
Mr. Ombudsman of International IOI have an answer about that. But I don't know how to answer that, but this is a good suggestion. Maybe a gentleman here can have the different perspective about that. But the Ombudsman of Alliance of Ombudsman, we have diverse and we have also geographically located. We have ASEAN Pacific Ombudsman region. We have Asia Ombudsman Alliance. We have many Ombudsman Alliance. So we don't need. I don't think that we need to make a Ombudsman International. Maybe we will be like what's that? PBB, Perserikatan Bangsa-Bangsa. What is that the name? United Nations. But thank you for the suggestion. Maybe you have another opinion, sir? Respect to you.
No, I'm just going to have to think about that one. So it's 12:25. One more quick question, if there are any. Otherwise, I don't see any hands going up. So I will declare this morning closed, and let's go for lunch.